Alright, now let's be real for a sec together. Did any of you actually practice last week's skills? What's going on, everyone? Marty here from parextreme.com. Welcome back to the channel. But if you're new, my name is Marty, and here on the channel I cover all things canoe camping and gear. If that interests you, make sure to subscribe. Before we jump in today's video, if you didn't check out last week's video, or if you didn't practice the skills that I told you to practice from last week's video, I'll put it up here in the cards. Make sure to go check that out, because this week we're going to learn how to properly pitch a tarp for when it's pouring rain and you want to enjoy some really nice camp life on your next canoe camping trip. But I will not be going over any of these knots. I'm going to do them very fast, because the purpose of today's video is to show you how to pitch the tarp properly and not tie the knots. So let's go. So the first shelter I want to show you guys today is going to require just a little bit of gear. So I've got a simple tarp here, tarp that you're used to seeing from, you know, just for working in your backyard. It's a weaved polyethylene material. And the reason why I like these tarps is that honestly, this is just like a very cheap tarp. It's about $20 to $30. I'll leave a link in the description below if you like it. The size is perfect, 10 by 12. For the shelter I'm going to show you guys, I really appreciate having a rectangle tarp rather than a square tarp. And what I like about it is this is literally my fire tarp. So this is the tarp that I'll bring whenever I know I'm going to want to make a fire underneath, because it's so cheap. If there's holes in it from sparks, that happens, I don't really care. And we're also going to have some paracord, so 5 pieces of cord, because we're gonna do a ridge line and then we're gonna tie off all the other 4 other sides of it. Let's turn you around and let's get that going. So the first thing we're gonna do to get the lean-to shelter set up here is we're actually gonna attach a ridge line between 2 trees. And the way I'm gonna do this is very simple. I'm gonna do a Siberian hitch on one side and a trucker's hitch on the other side and make it nice and tight, so I can then kind of put the tarp over top of it. The height of the ridgeline that I like to do myself is about at my head level or eyesight, so this way the ridgeline is nice and high. Ridgeline is set up now, so I'm going to take the tarp and literally lay it over top of it, the rectangle. So on the long side is going to go out this way and the short side wide. So on this particular tarp, what I have here is grommets to attach the rope. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up the tarp over top of the ridgeline at the second grommet, because I want a little bit of an overhang on this one. I'm gonna use a little bit of a trick here to secure the tarp with the grommets, a trick that I really enjoy myself. So I'm basically gonna loop through the rope through the grommet and use a branch to stuck it in there, and it's gonna act as a stopper. We're gonna go at the back here and we're gonna tie the back end of that tarp shelter. And to do that, what I'll do is I'll make a bolt line on the grommet on one side of the tarp, and then I'm gonna do a taut line hitch around the tree, and I'm gonna repeat the process on the other side, and I'm just gonna fine tune it from there. Let's go back to the front and adjust kind of the overhanging porch. So we're gonna do the same thing with the grommets on this end here, because what we'll do is we'll take that overhanging porch here, we're gonna pitch it like this. So let's do a bowl line at each of those, and then we'll find a tile point. As per usual, you set it up properly, you feed it through the grommet, you make your loop, bunny goes up the hole, around the back of the tree, back in the hole, like this. Now that we have this done, the next step is to do the bowl line here. 2 on the inside, 1 on the outside through. I don't have enough to make a bite here, so I'll just go like this, and then, well, this is already pretty pretty taut, so I don't need to do much else. Perfect. And there you have it, a lean-to with an overhanging porch like this. One of the things that I really enjoy about this shelter is that it is super strong in the wind. You can also set it up in a way that the you know, you would literally put the leaning side of it to the front of the wind, basically. So if the wind was coming from the back, I'd be protected. I could pitch it all the way lower if I wanted to. And it gives me a decent amount of livable space. And with the ridgeline, I can really bring this up as high as I want. And it's a nice place to have a fire, because there's a decent amount of clearance. And another thing that I've really been enjoying about this particular technique, and that's why I have the overhang here, and you've seen this in some of my other videos, is I use the ridge line literally as a clothesline over top of the fire when I'm soaked to the bone and I need to dry things out. When it's really cold, and that'll work for most shelters, but this shelter, because it's a little bit more closed in, when it's really cold and you have a little bit of a small fire here, obviously under a tarp you don't make a massive fire unless you have a big tarp and it's nice and high, but you make yourself a nice little fire. This will, it sounds silly, but this will create a little bit of a microclimate. And you know, the last time we were out in the La Vérendrye Park with the kids and we were rained out for like 12 hours straight, honestly, the fire underneath the tarp, it felt at least 10 degrees Celsius warmer under the tarp than when you would just step out. So it makes a big difference. It cuts the wind, and it's just a great way to spend an evening under the rain. And that basically covers everything you need to know about the lean-to with a little bit of an overhang. For the second tarp shelter I'm going to show you guys, I actually don't know what the name is, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a roof over top of us, and we're going to tie all four corners of a square tarp to 4 different trees, and we're going to give it an angle so that the water can run off. And the tarp I'm going to be using for this example is my AquaQuest Sil Nylon tarp. I think this is the guide tarp here. And the first thing I want to do before I get started with all of this, I will set up the rope at the end of each of the corners of this tarp first, and it'll make my work a lot easier. So what I'll do here is I'll actually attach the taut line hitch to the side of the tarp, because what I'll attach to the tree is the Siberian hitch. So this way it's going to be super fast for me to pick all 4 trees, set up real quick the Siberian hitch on 4 of the trees, and then adjust and fine tune the tension with the taut line hitch that's starting from the tarp here. Another simple tarp setup, and the reason why I like this tarp setup myself is that it is the best tarp setup in my opinion to kind of utilize the most square footage out of your tarp. Now the downfall is if it's super windy and you're not protected by bushes and other trees, it's, you know, you're really exposed to the element here. And one of the downfall of this particular technique is it doesn't matter how tight you pull the ropes and the 4 corners and you taut the line as much as possible, it's always going to sag here in the middle. So one of the things that I always do myself on top of that, and it's pretty easy, but what you do is you take a piece of branch that's about your height, especially if you attach the corner about at your head level, and then what I do is I use a sock, or here I'll just use one of my gloves because I didn't bring anything else, just to protect the tarp, and then I'm literally going to wedge this right here in the middle, and now this is going to be planted here in the soil. You have your tarp protected up here with your glove or with your sock, and now you have a much more open area, and the water will shed really easily on all sides. And you also can have a fire up here. The only difference is you don't have a ridge line going across to dry your stuff over top of it.